In section 4.6, I want you to be able to write a fraction in terms of a decimal and also vice versa. We talked about how to write a fraction as a decimal, especially when the fraction has a denominator of 10. If you recall, say if you have a fraction with a denominator of 10, then remember how to write them as a fraction, all we have to do is we know that this is in the 10th place. So we put it, or what we did is we count the number of zeros. So because there's 1 0, what you do is you start with the number 3, which is the number on top, and then you put a dot or you move one place to the left, and you're done. Say if there were 2 zeros, 3 over 100, write that as a decimal. All we have to do is start with the number 3, count the number of zeros. Because there are 2 zeros, I'm going to shift this 2 places to the left, and that's it. The problem here is your fraction now is no longer ones where denominators are powers of 10. And that's where the challenge comes in. Now, hopefully most people, or hopefully you know that a 1/4 is 0.25, because 1/4 is a fourth of a dollar, which is 1 out of 4 quarters, which is 25 cents. So 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25. But in order for us to show the work, we have to actually set the problem up and do the work, which I will show you how to do that. So if you're given a decimal fraction, to write that as a decimal, all we have to do is divide. So here's what we do. We have to divide the numerator by the denominator. So the numerator goes inside, the denominator goes outside. Because we cannot divide 1 by 4 because 1's too small, what we're going to have to do is we have to put a decimal and we insert as many zeros as needed. So I'm just going to insert as many zeros as I want. In other words, it's just 1 divided by 4. So here's what we do. We directly bring the decimal forward, and then we're just going to divide. So 4 is going to go into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract, I have a remainder of 2. Bring down the next 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And because my remainder is 0, I am done. Therefore, I have 0.25 as my answer. That is how you write a decimal as a, that's how you write a fraction as a decimal. I'm going to walk you through another problem. 2 over 3, write that as a decimal. So I'm going to have to divide the numerator by the denominator. My numerator goes inside, my denominator goes outside. I'm going to have to put a decimal and add as many zeros as I need. Bring the decimal directly forward. Now, how many times does 3 goes into 20? 3 is going to go into 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract, I have a remainder of 2. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times again. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract, I have a remainder of 2. Bring down the next 0. 3 is going to go into 20 6 again. 6 times 3 is 18 again. So for this fraction, notice that I see a pattern, and the pattern is that my decimal is going to become 666, and it's going to keep going. It will never end. I will always have a remainder of 2, and I will always have to bring down zeros. So it will continue in this pattern forever. Therefore, I can stop and I can say the answer is 0.666 6 dot 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 to indicate that this answer is just going to be 6666666 forever. Or one way to shortcut this is to write it as 0.6 with a bar on top, which is to indicate that the fraction is going to go on forever. All right, write 27 over 7 as a decimal. We are going to go ahead and set this up. 27 divided by 7. All right. 7 is going to go into 27 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. Subtract, I have a remainder of 6. All right. Because I want to write this as a decimal, I need to continue on until it ends or until this criteria is satisfied. I want to be able to round the answer to the nearest hundreds. What I need to do next is just to add a decimal and use as many zeros as I need. All right. So what I have to do now is I have to bring the decimal point directly above, bring down the zeros. 7 goes into 60. 7 goes into 60 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, I have a remainder of 4. Bring down the next 0. 7 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. Subtract, I have a remainder of 5. Bring down the next 0. 7 goes into 50 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. I now have a remainder of 4. Now, if I were to bring down the next 0, I would have 7 goes into 45 times. So there's a pattern. It's going to be 3.8585858585. However, I'm asked to round my answer to the nearest hundredth. So first I need to identify the hundredth location, which is this number. And because this next value is 5 or larger, I'm going to bump this up to 6. So my answer is 3.86. This is a mixed number, 2, 3 over 16. Write this mixed number as a decimal. The only part that you have to worry is 48 with a remainder of 4. 8 times 1, 12. So 128. Okay, so 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, 12. Subtract, I have a remainder of 12. Bring down my next 0. 16 goes into 120. 6 goes into 10, no, 8, no, 7. 7 works. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 1 is 7 with the remainder of 4 is 11. I have a remainder of 8. I'm going to go ahead and bring down my next 0. So unless I'm asked to round, I have to keep going until it comes to a stopping point. All right. So 16 is going to go into 80 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5 with the remainder of 3 is 8. Yay! So I subtract, I have a remainder of 0. Therefore, I am done because my remainder is 0. So my answer is 2 point, and then that fraction which I got 1875. All right. Try this one yourself. Okay. I want to take you through some big ones, such as example 6, 3/50. Write this as a decimal. Right. Now, actually, I'm going to show you how to do number 5 the easy way, because there is actually an easy way and a hard way. Now, if you recall, if I can somehow make this denominator powers of 10, then writing as fractions are pretty simple. I noticed that I can turn this denominator into powers of 10 by multiplying 5 by 20. But if I multiply 5 by 20, I also have to multiply the top by 20. So 4 times 20 is 80. 5 times 20 is 100. So what I just did is I just turned this fraction into an equivalent fraction with a denominator whose value is powers of 10. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the shortcut. I'm going to write the number 80, and because my denominator has 2 zeros, I'm going to shift the decimal point 2 places to the left, which I get 0.8. Done. Now, this problem, I could have somehow turned it into powers of 10. It was impossible to do this problem, so long division is your only option. Can't do it by, this problem cannot be turned into a fraction with powers of 10, so long division is your only option. So there are problems that you can do it with by turning it into powers of 10. There are problems that you can't. In this problem, you can find the decimal version by turning 50 into a power of 10. So ask yourself, 50 times what would give you 100? And 50 times 2 give you 100. So you multiply top and bottom by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 50 times 2 is 100. So I just turn this fraction into another fraction whose denominator is 100. And now converting to decimal is a very easy process. All I have to do is write the number 6, and depending on the number of zeros that I see, I'm going to shift that 2 places to the left. So 1, 2, and I put a decimal. Done. Okay. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is, how do you determine whether the decimal version is larger or is the fraction larger? First, let's go ahead and review these symbols. The first symbol is your greater than symbol, less than symbol, and this is equal to indicate that two quantities are equal. So in order to determine which one is larger, we have to convert the fraction into the decimal version. Now 1/5, because I know that 5 can be turned into powers of 10. 5 times 20 does give you 100, and 100 is a power of 10. I'm going to use the shortcut method to find the decimal representation of 1/5. Now, so for 1/5, its decimal, it's 0.20, because it has powers of 10 as denominator, and what I can do is shift the decimal 2 places to the left, which is 0.2. So I compare 0.2 and 0.25, and clearly 0.2 is less than 0.25. So there you go, done. Example 8, 0.777, that goes on, and 7/9. Let's go ahead and turn 7/9 into a decimal. And I cannot use the shortcut method because there's no number such that when you multiply it by 9, you get 100. So I have to do it the long way. 7.0000. Add as many zeros as you need. Bring the decimal directly above. 9 goes into 70 is 6 times. 6 times 9. I'm sorry, 7 times. 7 times 9 is 63. Subtract, you have a remainder of 7. Bring down the 0. 9 goes into 70 7 times. 7 times 9 is 63. Subtract, you have a remainder of 7. Bring down the next 0. Notice that this division is going to produce 0.77777 because the pattern, that's what the pattern showed. So when we compare 0.777 and this number is really 0.777, we conclude that these two numbers are actually equal to each other. Alright, how to determine which number is the largest, or rearrange these three numbers from smallest to largest. First, we have to convert these two fractions into decimals. For 9/20, because 20 can be turned into powers of 10 by multiplying it by 5, the conversion for this number is easy. 9 times 5 is 45. 20 times 5 is 100. So this number as a decimal is 0.45. We're done. Let's do 4/9. We have to set it up as a division problem. There is no shortcut for this. So 4, 9, 9 times 40. 9 goes into 40 4 times. 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract, you have a remainder of 4. Bring down the next 0. 9 goes into 40 4 times again. 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract, you have a remainder of 4. And notice that the pattern is going to continue. So 4/9 is really 0.44 repeated. And then we have this number, which is 0.456. So by looking at these three numbers, the smallest number is 0.44. So 0.4 bar, that's the smallest, followed by 0.45. And then the largest is 0.456. And I know that I do go through this lesson a bit fast. If you need, feel free to rewatch the video, and I'm sure that if you rewatch the video, a lot of these problems will become a bit clearer. I will talk more about section 4.5 and 4.6 on Monday. See you guys on Monday.